Hi, I'm Judge Penny Wolfgang. The elections are over and the results are in. We get reaction from a noted political strategist on what it all means. And the new season is underway with musical fair theater. We'll preview what's on stage right here, right now on The Big Picture. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. The elections have been held and the results are in. Here to break it all down for all of us is Jack O'Donnell, managing partner of O'Donnell & Associates and ranked as one of the top 50 political strategists in New York State. Okay, welcome, Jack. How do you like that? How do you like that intro?
What a kind introduction. Great to be with you.
I know, John wrote it, I'm just reading it, but I did know you were one of the top 50, believe me. So there's so much to get to. Let's start with the results for Mayor of Buffalo. I guess that's of prime interest to us here. What is your reaction to Sean Ryan winning, and what does it mean, if anything?
Well, I think it means a whole new day in Buffalo. I think there's a lot of pressure will be on Sean Ryan. The city is facing a real difficult fiscal crisis. And I think Mayor Ryan is planning to address that head on. But at the same time, he's made some big promises about doing a better job of delivering the everyday services that those of us in Buffalo expect, like fixing the damn potholes. So, it's going to be a tough road for him. But I think after, having one mayor for a long time, it's nice to have some fresh vision and new ideas at City Hall.
Do you think he's too liberal, or his programs or ideas are too liberal for this area?
Well, the voters didn't think so. I mean, we saw a spirited campaign from James Gardner, the Republican candidate, sort of saying just as much. But I also think that, Sean Ryan has approached this the right way. The way he's talked about governing, there's no Democratic way, no Republican way to fix a pothole. There's just the right way, right? Or a way to get it done. And so I think he set out some real metrics. I mean, look, has he taken some policy positions in the past that are to the left of me and to the left of many of us? He certainly has. But I also think, when he talks about governing, he's talking about engaging with business. He's talking about engaging with employers. He's talking about making sure homeowners feel safe and that he's addressing the crisis of crime. So, he's saying all the right things, and then the proof, as we know, will be in the pudding, and it's going to be hard to do that with an empty cupboard and not a lot of money, but I'm optimistic about it.
Okay, well, as you would say, we'll see. Now let's turn to the Erie County Controller race, and Kevin Hardwick won, and I don't know if people realize or think that's an important position, managing the finances and working with the county executive. Is it important, and what do you think? How is he going to do?
Well, I think it's as important as the controller makes it, right? We've seen some really influential controllers who've been, willing to stand up to county executives or county legislatures, but also support them at different times. And I think, if you look at the results on Tuesday night, people think Kevin Hardwick is doing a good job. I think he's been in the news lately, certainly over the last year, a lot more than any controller in a number of years. For audits they've done, uncovering fraud, uncovering, some crimes that were referred to law enforcement. So I think broadly the voters want to see that, and I think Kevin Hardwick has delivered.
Well, this kind of leads right into the next question, in the sense that Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz has said he's finished with this term, and what's going to happen, because Kevin Hardwick is one of the names that keeps coming up. I'm sure you, as well as others, I don't know. What do you think is going to happen after he finishes his term?
Well, I think absolutely you've got to look at Kevin Hardwick as a strong candidate for that. I think when he was asked if he was interested, he said, "I'm not interested," which is a clever reply.
Yeah.
But I think, look, anytime somebody wins that many votes and wins by that percentage in countywide office, I think they have to be looked at as one of the front runners for that position. I think there are a number of people who've talked about Lisa Chimera, who's the deputy county executive. We've heard some speculation about Assemblymember Pat Burke as different candidates for that, and I expect we'll see a couple other names pop up over the next year or two.
Yeah, I'm sure other people will as well. And let's go downstate. Even though we're not in New York City, it really dominated the news, and the election for mayor was held. And as we know, Mamdani won. And what do you think is going to happen as a result? It's very, very, I want to say, controversial, and it's gotten a lot of attention, more than anything in this country, I think, at this point, because he is a socialist, an avowed socialist, and so left in the Democratic Party. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think we're going to hear a lot about him for the next few years, right? Both from Republicans trying to tie Democrats to a Democratic socialist and someone far to the left. But also, I think this is just an example of the larger fissure that is very much taking place within the Democratic Party. There has been, over the last decade, a fight between the center left and the far left, right? We saw that with AOC defeating Congressman Joe Crowley, who was in line to be leader of the House, in a Democratic primary, I don't know, 8 years ago now, whatever that was. I think this is an ongoing challenge, but I think there's three things that I would remark about it, right? The first is that Zohran Mamdani is an impressive political talent. Whatever you think of his actual policies and his proposals, how he ran this campaign was amazing, and we've seen the digital side of that because it can go viral. But, they ran a campaign where they had over 100,000 people out canvassing for their neighbors. And so, that's the kind of campaign that Judge, we haven't seen in a long time. And someone who can motivate young people to get off their screens and go door to door, I mean, that's an impressive accomplishment. I think the second point is it really depends on how he governs. Is he able to get some things done? Is he able to get some results? What do those look like? Is he caught up in taxing the rich, or is he caught up in delivering affordable daycare and faster buses, right? Some of what he's proposed isn't as wild when you dig into it and get beyond the media caricatures, right? Mike Bloomberg at one point proposed free buses in New York City. So, there's a long tradition of these things, but it depends on how he does and what a good job he does governing. And then the third point that I just really like to make is, Republicans are quick to push Mamdani as the face of the Democratic Party now, and he did have this impressive win. But I think equally impressive are the Democratic wins in New Jersey and Virginia, where you had two Democratic members of Congress, two members who have military backgrounds. One has a strong business background. Both, fiercely moderate. They stood up to the Democratic hierarchy. One of them has led the fight in Congress to ban stock trading by members. There are other things happening here, and on the ground in a big swing state like New Jersey, Jackie Sherrill won by 12 points. I think that's equally important for the future of the party.
I guess what you're saying is there's going to be a lot of controversy, or a lot is going to happen as within the Democratic Party as to which way they're going to go after these elections. And I don't know, what do you think, how it's going to affect any of this, the midterm elections?
Well, I think absolutely it has to impact the midterms, right? It's a battle for the soul of the Democratic Party. And we see one thing in some urban areas, some things in rural areas. You know, we're seeing some different things, and the party will have to decide kind of where they go.
The next thing I think we want to talk about is how the Republicans and the Democrats were affected altogether by Trump and by the ongoing government shutdown. Do you think the shutdown affected the election that we just held, and how's it going to affect the future?
Well, absolutely. The government shutdown had a huge impact on the election results yesterday. And you don't have to believe me. This morning, in a breakfast with the Republican members of the United States Senate, President Trump said the same thing. He said, we're getting killed out there because of the shutdown. So, you know, I think that is a really important fact. I also think we see, you know, we mentioned some of the big races. You know, we're seeing the beginning of a blue wave if you go deeper into the results, whether it's in Monroe County, where Democrats picked up several Republican towns, places like Orange County, Dutchess County. The Dutchess County legislature has never had a Democratic majority, and they will in January. So you're seeing some of that reaction. Now, the question is, will that last a year? Will Democrats screw it up? You know, a lot of this is going to play out in real time.
Is the political divide, the shutdown, everything that we're experiencing, is it ever going to get better? I mean, are they going to get together? Do they have to eventually get together?
Oh gosh, I really wish they would get together, right? I wish there were a few more voices in the middle. You know, the problem is the results are going to embolden Democrats to say we don't need to compromise. So I don't know that we're going to see them get together anytime soon. But I do think real people are feeling the effects of this shutdown, and I'm optimistic that that's enough to at least get some members of Congress talking to each other and plotting a path forward.
There's a lot of talk about who might be the front runner for the Democratic Party now, especially with these elections taking place like Mondami and what we just talked about. What do you think?
Well, I think there are some clear favorites who have spent a lot of money and been out there, right? You see people like Governor Newsom, the governor of Illinois. A few of these folks have been out there really courting the left and really trying to be the I'm going to fight Donald Trump candidates. But I also think there's some really interesting folks who are maybe less well known today that are starting to move around and are opportunities. There's a guy like Wes Moore, who's the governor of Maryland, who's a much more moderate, he's an African-American leader in Maryland who's, stood up to the party. He just vetoed a legislation around reparations, which got a lot of attention. We've seen Jennifer Granholm, the governor of Michigan. Some of these folks have governed in purple states, right? Roy Hunt in North Carolina. A lot of them are slowly testing their message and visiting with Democrats across the country. So much of this comes down to who can put it together, right? We didn't know who, a lot of people didn't know who Barack Obama was at this point in the cycle, and nobody thought he could beat Hillary Clinton. And wow, times change quick.
Yeah, I know. People always use that as an example. Since we're a local program, I almost forgot to ask you, what did you think about the Amherst supervisor? Were you surprised that with all the controversy about taxes and Westwood and everything going on, were you surprised at the outcome?
Well, I guess I thought, it appeared to be that it was going to be a little bit of a closer race, but I also think, I think a lot of those decisions, people associate them with Brian Culpa. I think the Republicans tried hard to associate the Democratic candidate with him. But he's a young man, a fresh face, and I think voters felt that. I also think you saw some of the divisions in the Republican Party on display there around, the fight over the conservative line, and that always hurts parties. But I also think at the end of the day, the electorate in Amherst has just moved so far, right? The the affluent, college-educated folks have just moved. So many of them have moved to the Democratic Party, and more importantly, broadly away from the Republican Party, that I think helps explain the results.
And the people at the university have a lot of votes, so forth. Before I forget, what do you think about Hochul? How she endorsed Mandami, as we know, and what about her chances? Will that affect her in any way? And is anybody going to run against her that's got in a primary or a Republican?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think Kathy Hochul had a good night on Tuesday night. Candidates she endorsed across the state won. We talked earlier, Democrats in a lot of these suburban areas picked up seats, right? Especially in the northern suburbs. So I think it was a good night for Kathy Hochul. She, I think, has always had to balance this, Democrats on the far left, Republicans on the far right, and she really has always tried to find kind of that middle ground. I think working with a Mayor Zohran Mamdani is going to be a real test around that, right? But we've heard from her that there are some places where they can work together. She has been pushing an affordability agenda for 3 years now as governor. Some of that aligns with things he's been talking about. She's been talking about access and affordability of childcare for her entire career in public office. That's somewhere else that he's been talking about. She's been talking about investing in the MTA, the Metropolitan Transit, the buses, the subways, and made that a hallmark of her career, right around things like congestion pricing that started out hated and reviled in New York City, and now broadly has a lot of support as they're buying new trains and new buses. So if she can successfully find ways to deliver on accomplishments along with Mayor Mamdani, I think that'll be to her advantage. If she gets sucked into we're going to raise taxes on New Yorkers who are successful and drive them out of the state, that's going to be hard for her. To the other question, we've seen Antonio Delgado, who's her lieutenant governor, moving around the state. He says he's running against her. I also think broadly the Working Families Party and the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA, who were all behind Zohran Mamdani, they have to feel emboldened today. So I wouldn't be surprised if they find another candidate and she faces a real primary.
How do you know all this? I can't believe how you know all this, Jack. It's amazing to me. So if people, about everything, locally, nationally, you're a genius. If people want to keep up with your newsletter and get political insight, can you tell us, is there a website for you?
That's so nice. Our website is o'donnellsolutions.com. They can sign up for our Monday morning memo for free. Look, we love this stuff. We love talking about it. The way if someone came into your courtroom, you knew the law up and down and back and forth and how it was going to be seen. That's how we are in this world. So thank you very much, Your Honor.
I don't know if I even knew the law as well as you know politics, but thank you. And thanks so much for talking to us today, Jack O'Donnell from O'Donnell and Associates. And thanks for your insight. We will be right back.